Hi everyone, tonight I'm going to be talking about Disney's 36th animated feature, Mulan. Soon Oh, who voiced Fazu, passed away, and that, among many other reasons, is why I'm going to be talking about this movie. I love the look of this movie. Its China background and setting really make for some interesting animation. Watercolors are done several times throughout the film, from the opening to the mountains when Mulan first arrives at the camp and Shang's father leaves, and briefly in the girl fighting for scene, and it really gives you the feel of Chinese culture, as do various other bits of animation such as tapestries, vases, which sort of have a little blue willow theme to them, which makes it very interesting to look at. And I'm not sure, as I've never been to China and don't know much about Chinese culture from ancient times, but from what I can see, the film really does try to show all its culture. We see the buildings and so much themed to all the heritage, as well as many things in the plot itself. It really feels like Disney did serious research when making this movie. The story is great. It has big themes about honor and what that means, as well as courage, being true to yourself, and perseverance. The action sequences are great, some of the best in any Disney movie. They're very intense. There are times when people actually die in this movie, and not just like Mufasa or Bambi's mother, while those were very emotional. Several people, more than I would say are the main cast. The casualties are that great in this film from both civilians and soldiers on both sides of the war. That's one thing that's really commendable about this movie. It shows war for what it is. Obviously, it can't be done to the same level as Grave of the Fireflies, as it has a G rating, but it still manages to do so very well. The characters are another great part of this movie. Mulan herself is one of Disney's strongest heroines, but at the same time, why I think she's so great is that she doesn't start out as physically strong or particularly skilled in anything. The scene with the matchmaker shows that she's awkward, makes mistakes, and she's frustrated with the idea of having to be something she isn't. This makes her more relatable than other Disney heroines and princesses. And over the time of the movie, in the camp and during training, we see her grow. She's the first to succeed in obtaining the arrow. But of course, that was after multiple fails in other areas. But then we see her succeed. And because we've seen these failures, it's so much easier to root for her. It's so much easier to relate to her and want her to succeed. Shang is another character that I think connects quite nicely with Mulan herself. Both Mulan and Shang are very connected with their fathers. Mulan is trying her hardest and taking the greatest risks possible for his safety, while Shang wants to uphold his lineage and make his father proud, which is also part of Mulan, but mostly it's done to protect her father. But at the same time, both of them are learning to grow and they become their own people, to stay true to themselves even when they're trying to do so much for others. Mushu is another great Disney sidekick. He's one of the funniest, but there's also other interesting things about him too. Unlike someone like Flounder from Little Mermaid, he doesn't care solely about Mulan in the beginning of the film. He wants to become a guardian again. He's in it for himself largely, but similar to Mulan, he grows out of this because of character growth and their bond increases over time. The scene when he reassures her that her intentions were good and that she has nothing to be ashamed of was one of the best parts of the film for me. The secondary characters are also really great for, for, for comedy. Shampo, Yao, and Ling are a great trio that balance out each other. Shampo being the big guy with a huge appetite, but it's just so lovable that you can't help but just want to hug him. Yao is the tough guy that has a soft spot deep down. Ling is sort of the wise cracker, and all three of them deliver some of the best comedy in the film, along with Mushu, of course. Grandmother Fa is another character that I think is so underrated. Honestly, she deserves her own movie. We see that she doesn't buy into the idea of the ancestors quite as much as other people, but she still prays to them. And when the ancestors are responding to Mulan's leaving, or this is what I'm taking from it anyway, she's quick to waken up, showing that maybe she has more skills and something more to her than we really know. And of course, she's voiced by the late and great June Foray, who voiced many other cartoon characters, including Granny from Looney Tunes and Rocket J. Squirrel, aka Rocky. Fazu himself is a great father, and I would be very remiss not to mention him on this night in particular. He feels frustrated with Mulan, and they don't always get on well, but it's clear that he wants what's best for her. He fears for her, but at the same time, he still believes in her, saying that she's a cherry blossom that just hasn't bloomed yet, but she'll be the most beautiful of all, which is certainly what happens. The Emperor is another character that really appreciates Mulan and doesn't believe in all the gender stereotypes. Well, I don't know if believe is the right word, but he sees past them more so than the other characters in the film do. Shan Yu is one of Disney's most intimidating villains, in my opinion. He's cruel, he kills without necessity, and the idea that when he kills that one messenger or the entire village he murdered, and the worst part is, like other Disney villains, he has some comedic lines, but unlike Ursula, they don't take away from his cruelty at all, and they don't make him fun or funny. In fact, lines like, "The little girl lost her doll, we should return it to her." Well, missing, but anyway, that just adds to his cruelty. The fact that he finds humor in all of it. The songs are another great part of this film. "I'll Make a Man Out of You" is everyone's favorite, and it really shows the growth of the frustration for Shang and then the eventual success of Mulan and the others to show how far they've come within the span of a few minutes. And that really is impressive. Now, one song that some people may have problems with on a few levels is "Girl We're Fighting For." Some may find it sexist. I don't, since obviously the film is, well, pretty much going against those gender norms. And second, the scene that comes right after it is very depressing. The idea of the village and the troops being killed, but at the same time, that really works in a strange way. The song sort of has the idea of, we're going to come home, we're going to get women to love us, but at the same time, we see something that we weren't expecting from this movie. The brutal truths of war, and and the very contradiction of it really works for the film's credit. Mulan has some great comedy, and largely it comes from animation itself. Mushu and the ancestors have great movements, and they're just such funny characters that it's impossible not to laugh when they're on screen. Overall, Mulan is definitely on my top 10 animated Disney films, maybe 6 or 7. I just love this movie so much. I can't praise it enough. You've probably already seen it, but if you haven't or it's been a while, definitely worth checking out again. Fine for the whole family, with some possible violent scenes. Hold your kid's hand during them. Still worth watching. The music and comedy make this lighthearted while still having an action feel. Very much the most well-rounded Disney movie for tone, or up there anyway. Now, the question of the day is, what strong animated heroine do you most admire? And as always, please leave your recommendations for any animated films you want me to review in the comments. Until then, signing off, and have a great day.